Good afternoon. I'm Nelly Youssef, Data Science Manager at CIB, and it gives me a great pleasure to be with you all today. يعني أنا هحاول إن إحنا نتكلم عن الداتا ساينس in a brief and the most non-technical way, just to get a glimpse of data science, know more about the terms that we hear about every day, we'll hopefully end this session today with knowing more and knowing the differences between some of the key terms that you probably hear about the data science, and hopefully also know how to apply it, or maybe get some inspiration on how to apply it within your job, whether as an actuary or if you're working in banking. Definitely this will be also very useful. So let's start. For me, data science is basically, this is what I call it, the science of decision making. It really, this is what it's all about. And we'll start off our presentation today with demystifying data science, basically explaining what is data science. And data science constitutes of two terms, data and science. So we're starting off with data first. What about data? Why has it become so important lately? And what can we do about it? And then more about the science part of data science, and explaining a bit more about the terminologies اللي احنا بنسمعها طول الوقت وايه the differences ما بينهم وامتى نستخدم ايه and so on. We'll go then بعد كده نتكلم شوية عن applications بتاعت data science specifically in banking. Given my expertise within commercial banking, I'll focus on that, but definitely في the questions part later you can feel free to ask me more about other applications. And finally, and most importantly, given the context, إنه I want to focus برضو على the differences ما بين data science, actuarial science, and those who are planning or to endorse it within their job already, actuary, or those who are hoping to make a shift. How can you actually do that? And is it actually a shift? Well, it's more closer than you may think. This will be basically the content of our session today. Feel free to ask me questions through the session if something is unclear. If you're not getting something on the slides, please do ask me. Otherwise, if it's questions outside the content, عايزين نسأل حاجات تانية أكتر, let's leave it for the end of the session. I will leave plenty of time for questions, inshallah. So let's start. Okay, firstly about data. So we'll start off with the first part of data science. Now everyone is talking about how data is becoming so important. It's becoming the new raw material of business. Some say data is the new oil, some say data is the new gold, but it's becoming basically one of the most valuable assets within any organization. But you basically need to be able to find value out of it. So in order to find value, I really like this quote that tells you data will talk to you if you're willing to listen to it. Basically, you need to know how to listen to it, and you need to know your tools and how to get around it. And this is hopefully one of the things we'll touch points across today. And finally, this is one of the controversial quotes about data. So it says, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So of course, although expertise and opinion is very crucial to any job, however, if you don't have data to back it up, and then it's just simply an opinion. You will never know for sure if you're right or wrong. So this is the beauty of data. It can always help you make the right decision with a great deal of certainty. And this is what we will see in a minute. So why has data become so important in the last, let's say, decade? It's becoming more and more important over time. I mean, it has been there since forever. We always had data. بس دلوقتي data has been growing very very fast, exponentially if we can say, with an amount that we've never seen before. يعني we've reached zettabytes, which is a new term. So we're more familiar with terabytes, and then petabytes are the bigger category, and then exabytes, and then zettabytes. The global data volume in 2020 has reached around 64.2 zettabytes, which is a lot, and it's projected to grow even more, around maybe more than twice by 2025. So given the huge amount of data and its growth exponentially, we need to be able to use it basically for the sake of making revenues, making better decision making, and so on. So just to get you a glimpse of الحاجات اللي احنا probably we use on a daily basis, just to give you some sense of how much data we're creating on every minute. This is based on 2020 data. So مثلا if we take Instagram, users post around 347,000 stories every minute. A lot of data to really wrangle upon. Zoom, for instance, although Zoom, I mean, across the world, it has been only popular through 2020. It already hosts around 200,000 participants in each meeting every minute. Okay. Facebook, the users upload around 147,000 photos every minute. So just to get WhatsApp, 41 million messages per minute. So if you can imagine every single point of this data, it can tell you so much, and it can drive decision making completely differently if you know how to get the value out of it. Also, يعني in parallel, in terms of the global internet population has been growing a lot. يعني just to sum it up all, we've been creating a lot of data. So the next step, and this is why it's becoming so important, is that any organization wants to make use of the new goals that they have. So based on the World Economic Forum surveys, around 84% of the S&P company value in 2018 was basically constituted of intangible assets, which are mainly, a good percentage of it was data. Around 80% of the data currently sits in actually enterprises. And there will be around 30 billion connected devices, سواء بقى mobiles or iPads or whatever, by 2023. So again, any organization that really wants to hit on that would be very smart, especially during this time. So if we can sum it up, in basically the digitalization and the exponential growth of data really offers an opportunity for everyone to expand and really use this data for decision making if used effectively, and we'll see how to do that in a minute. So we've talked a bit about data. What about the science part? So let's start with some terms. I'll share some terms كده just to for you to think about the terms that you've actually heard about data science or analytics and so on. So there's big data, there's analytics, there's data science, there's machine learning, artificial intelligence. We hear كل الترمز دي بس محدش بيبقى عارف قوي طب يعني مين فيهم ايه وممكن استخدم ايه امتى ولا how do I know what I need. And I'm talking here in two perspectives. From one side, perspective of if you're an analyst or if you're an actuary, if you're, and from another side, if you're an organization and or maybe managing a team and you want to start endorsing analytics and data science to improve the way you do your work. So the first part is understanding what means what and how to use them and when to use which. And this is what we're going to focus on right now. So we're starting off with the term data science. يعني we're starting off من الأول خالص. How did the term data science come to life أصلا? The first data scientist ever is D.G. Patel. He's an American mathematician, and he was the chief data scientist of the U.S. Office for Science and Technology, hired by Barack Obama back then. Probably one of the first things that made him really popular was during predicting the election results, and he predicted it with a very high accuracy, actually. And since then, the term data science has evolved, and he was the first ever data scientist in the US. Actually, him and another guy called Jeff Hammerbacher, the co-founder of Cloudera, they actually made up the word data scientist to describe their job function on LinkedIn because they didn't know how to explain what they were doing. So this is how the term came along. I found something interesting about Patel's way of explaining data, and it's pretty much probably أي حد هيبقى اشتغل في data science هيبقى this is the way you see it. إنه the most important thing about data science is how you use the data, and it's the most powerful thing. Using data in novel ways to build things. Okay, so basically, in order to be able to do that, you interact with the data, you study it to try to come up with new things, but the end in mind is to use data in novel ways to build things, whether things that will help you do something better within your organization or something completely new. It depends on the problem. So if you go to Wikipedia بقى, it tells you يعني a good explanation from a discipline-wise what is data science. Data science is simply a concept بيجمع ما بين 3 حاجات key: statistics, data analysis or data mining, and machine learning. These are the key components of data science. طبعا if you read more about it, they will say you have to have some business knowledge domain, you have to have, I don't know, communication and visualization, so on. These are mainly the skills that you need. But as a concept, data science is basically the blend of statistics, data mining, and machine learning, and making use of them in the best way possible to understand and analyze whatever phenomena or help your organization or build things and so on. آخر حاجة بقى يعني, and this is the way I refer to it all the time, إنه basically data science is just trying to make the data you have useful, as simple as that. So whenever the term comes to your mind بقى يعني you're starting now forward, basically it's the discipline of making data useful. Depends on what you will use out of your toolbox. Data science is a huge field that has many tools. You need to pick the right tool at the right time, so in order to be useful and get something out of it. So back to data science components بقى اللي احنا قلناهم الثلاثة. Data mining, or also known as analytics, يعني you can refer to them as both, أو statistical inference أو statistics in general, and machine learning. Okay, so these are the 3 subfields of data science. وطبعا يعني if you refer to different references, you can probably find other ways of really explaining what data science is, but to me this is the most relevant one and the most realistic, honestly. So if we look at this for a second, data science it constitutes of analytics, statistics, and machine learning. And as we said, data science is basically a set of tools that you need to use depending on your situation. Let's think together كده. بالنسبة لكم لو الفروقات ما بين كل حاجة من الثلاثة دول, what's the difference ما بين مثلا data mining and statistical inference and machine learning? Is the difference مثلا التools? يعني let's think together. Do you think the key difference is the tool. مثلا you can use R and SQL for data mining, and مثلا something else for machine learning, a third for statistics, or maybe it's the algorithms. I'll give you 10 seconds to think about that before we say what makes them different. And I'll give you a hint. So the thing that differentiates them, we have basically, we do not need to have any of it for data mining and analytics. We just need one of it, at least one of it for statistical inference, and many of it for machine learning. And this is what makes them different. Okay, so basically the thing that makes them different is the decisions. Okay, so for data mining or analytics, you do not need to have a decision per se to use it. يعني إيه؟ يعني أكيد we're not playing with the data, but that's all. Although يعني this is something that you can do a lot, but as it said, it's used to basically for inspiration. Meaning إنه زي ما قلنا, if you're an organization, you have lots of data. Let's say you're working on sales data, for instance. You have the sales data for the past few years, and you have the pattern, the trends, and so on. And your boss told you have this data, try to make something useful out of it. There's nothing to answer, really, but you want to make something out of it. If that's the case, you usually go for data mining or analytics, because you will find stuff and you will find inspirational and insights that you can actually share, whether with your business teams or with your, I mean, depending on where you are, but you will find something interesting just looking at the data, just using analytics without actually having an objective or a decision to reach. The second thing is statistics or statistical inference, and you need to actually have a decision to make. يعني in order to use statistics, you have to have at least one decision, أو يعني mostly one decision to make, and it needs to be important enough. So if it's not very important, you can actually still use analytics. You do not have to mainly test for statistical hypothesis or whatever to use in order to just make one decision. Okay, but we'll see in a bit يعني when to use statistics, but you need to at least have one decision to make in order to use statistics. And with machine learning بقى, you need to have many decisions to make, and it's basically what they call a decision recipe. يعني إيه؟ يعني مثلا أنا عايز أعمل recommendation system يقول لي which product to give for each customer on a regular basis. So number one, we're having هنا many decisions. I'm making a decision for each and every customer I have. And number two, I'm making the decision on a regular basis. So I'm making many decisions. In this case, I refer to machine learning, and this is the tool I want out of my toolbox اسمها data science واستخدمها في الوقت ده. Basically, just to sum it all up, in 3 fields تحت data science, analytics, statistics, machine learning. You choose them depending on ايه الديسيجن اللي انت عايز تعمل decision ولا لا، وايه الديسيجن اللي انت عايز تعمله. There are a lot of decisions or they're just one. I found this interesting decision tree to sum it all up. Basically, you think about it. Are you making a decision? If you're not, if you're just playing with the data, or you want some descriptive analytics, a bit of insights and so on, then you just go to analytics or data mining. If you are making a decision, you think of how many decisions am I making. If there are few decisions, one or a few decisions, and it has uncertainty, then you go definitely to statistics. if there are few decisions but there is no uncertainty with the data، يعني هي الداتا اللي معاك هتبقى كافية جدا ان انت تطلع بيها ب patterns و decisions من غير اي some sort of uncertainty، then you can definitely go to the descriptive analytics. واخيرا لو عندك many decisions, lots and lots of decisions, and you have data, then you go to machine learning. So this is the decision tree of when to use what. Okay, now we're going to go a bit deeper to explain هو ايه كل حاجة من الحاجات اللي احنا شفناها دي in still non-technical terms as much as we can. So let's start off with data mining or analytics. Sometimes it's also referred to as exploratory data analysis, descriptive analytics, knowledge discovery, things like that, just so that you are not confused by the many terms، بس هما في الآخر حاجة واحدة يعني. When do you use it؟ زي ما قلنا when you still don't have a decision to make necessarily، يعني أنت عارف إن أنت عندك data والdata دي probably فيها حاجة useful بس مفيش decision نعمله دلوقتي حالا. يعني زي ما قلنا كده عندنا data for sales، data for let's say مثلا in banking you have data مثلا for credit cards، everyone who all the customers who opted in a credit card مثلا في الفترة اللي فاتت والusage patterns بتاعتهم and where did they use, whether they used their cards or not, where did they use them, stuff like that. Okay, you have this data when no one asks you for a certain objective. You play around with the data and definitely it will tell you something زي ما قلنا كده. if you give the data a chance, if you listen to it, it will tell you a lot يعني. So basically it's mainly used for inspiration. A nice example is also to think about يعني to remember القصة دي. لو فاكرين النيجاتيفز بتاعت الصور زمان لما كان عندنا نيجاتيفز للصور and so on. think of your data set as a bunch of negatives in a dark room. You don't know الصور لسه، انت شايف بس negatives، فانت مش عارف الصور دي بتعبر عن ايه لسه. data mining or analytics is about working your equipment او التورتش اللي معاك عشان expose images as quickly as possible عشان تشوف بس لو في صور من الحاجات اللي موجودة دي ممكن تبقى interested فيها. اوكي، انت مش انت اللي خدت الصور بنفسك ولا انت هتخلص كل الصور دلوقتي او تطلع بالديسيجن بيز على الصور. you're just taking a very quick overview بالتورج بتاعتك كده بتنور في الضلمة عشان تحاول تطلع anything useful out of it, and then eventually if you need more we will use something else. اوكي، في بقى very very important note في الحتة دي. اوكي، وبرضو الناس اللي جاية من actuarial background يعني هيبقوا فاهمين القصة دي كويس جدا انه generally when it comes to any actuarial decision or statistical decision and so on, you test with your hypothesis بتشوف statistically valid or not and so on, and then you decide you take this decision right or wrong or whatever. في analytics you don't really do that. all you do not have أي حاجة بتقولك على uncertainty or باختصار بالبلدي كده أي حاجة بره الداتا بتاعتك أنت ما عندكش أي معلومات عنها. يعني لو إحنا بنقول أنا عندي الداتا بتاعة cards for the past 6 months, all I know is the customers who opted in لcards في ال6 شهور اللي فاتوا and that's it. ممكن يبقى بره كده في حاجات تانية، ممكن يبقى بره البيريد دي في حاجات تانية، ممكن يبقى بره الباتش بتاعت الكاردز دي في patterns تانية مختلفة تماما عن اللي موجودة دلوقتي. اوكي، فأي conclusion هتبقى بتعمله you need to be very careful that this is only based على cards data that you have for the 6 months only, and this does not apply على أي حاجة تانية بره ده. Okay, because a lot of people who use data, they tend to use it in the wrong way in making assumptions about the future or about the past while only the data they have هي كانت في فترة معينة بس. فباختصار شديد only make conclusions about the data you can see, never about what you cannot see. If you want to make conclusions about what you cannot see أو حاجة بره ال data that you have, then use statistics, use hypothesis testing, but do not use analytics. Analytics is just for the data that you have دلوقتي. Okay. an expert tip بقى for analytics. أي حد جاي من background بره data science بتبقى بالنسبة له الفقرة دي شوية مخيفة عشان you have a lot of data. يعني زي ما بنقول كده you have a lot of data, you're in a dark room, you have a lot of data and you're trying to make sense out of it and get any value, any inspiration. it becomes a bit overwhelming أو intimidating لو دي حاجة أول مرة تعملها. just as an expert advice, learn to work equipment بتاعتك اللي هي R, Python, SQL depending على أنت بتستخدم إيه, and try to be as quick as possible. Try to be to practice ده كويس عشان ده اللي هيساعدك إن أنت لما يبقى عندك الداتا كتيرة قوي كده ما تبقاش overwhelmed, تبقى you know إيه الsteps اللي أنت هتعملها, هتبتدي تبص على إيه الأول and so on. This is something that يعني comes and becomes better by practice basically. Speed and practice is your go-to thing for analytics and data mining. Okay. Our second thing, our second part of the toolbox بتاعتنا اللي اسمها data science is statistical inference or statistics, and what and how they call إنه inspiration is cheap, and يعني sorry about the term, but inspiration زي analytics it's easy. في الآخر you need to learn R or Python, get the data set, practice, and you will be fine. You don't need fancy formal education for it. You do not need to have a certificate of whatever. You just need to know a tool and get your hands dirty with the data. But statistics or rigor is expensive. From my point of view, you need expert training for the statistics, and definitely يعني, the attendees here, if you come from an actuarial background, you would know that. You know, it's not quite easy to learn statistics in a day or two. So, and I believe it is the most difficult of the three areas. And in order to be good at it, it takes a bit of time. So, however, I believe it's one of the most important aspects of data science, and maybe it's undermined a bit. Machine learning كاسم و AI بياخدوا اللايت كتير جدا من ال statistics, but at the end of the day هي statistics is still and will remain يعني a core part of data science. So هنتعب بقى وهنتعلم وهنذاكر وكده وبتاع, وبعد كده when do we actually need to use statistics for data science? Number one هو كده يعني I believe the core component of most of the machine learning algorithms is still based on statistics and calculus and a blend of both. If you want to understand how the thing works or eventually even build your own algorithms, you still need to really know your statistics. But otherwise, if you intend عامة إن أنت تعمل a decision, a controlled decision, high quality, important decision, مش بيرلاي بس على زي ما قلنا بقى على الوقت اللي احنا موجودين فيه ده, على conclusions about the data that's beyond the data that is available to you. يعني أنا ممكن يبقى عندي دلوقتي cards بتاعت 6 شهور اللي فاتوا والpatterns والbehaviors بتاعتهم and so on. بس أنا عايز أعرف أعمل conclusion in general إنه مثلا هو مثلا customers بتوعي they tend مثلا to use their cards في أول مثلا شهر أكتر ولا بعد 3 شهور بيبتدوا يستخدموا ده مثلا أكتر, something like that. Okay. Just to get to know, to build مثلا a better onboarding system for the new cards, for new cards customers, or مثلا make new features and so on. فمثلا قرار زي ده انت عشان تاخده لازم to use statistics, and it's basically يعني one of the key tools that you need is our old friend, if you know of, hypothesis testing. hypothesis testing is one of the key things that you would need to really build conclusions على أي حاجة that has uncertainty في الدata, even if you have a lot of data. And I'll give you an example كده يعني، ودي حاجة هتلاقوها كتير قوي حتى في الجوب descriptions سواء في مصر أو بره مصر، و it's not just for data science. يعني لو فتحتوا مثلا job descriptions لحاجات زي customer insights analysts or customer experience analysts وحاجات كده، هتلاقوا في حاجة اسمها A/B testing. A/B testing is basically hypothesis testing with a sexy name. So when do we use it? It's basically used prior to the launch of أي AI system. يعني عملنا دلوقتي machine learning algorithm أو AI system, and we want to make sure إن إحنا when we use it, when we launch it, it will actually perform the way we want it to perform. So it is always highly recommended to do what we call pilot testing أو A/B testing and test the performance بتاع الالجوريثم ده. for instance يعني just to make it more closer to your mind، لو احنا عاملين حاجة زي مثلا الامازون recommendation system بيطلع recommendations لبرودكتس لنيلي لمروة لعليا whatever، and then we want to see ال recommendations دي actually valid ولا لأ. بنشوف ال KPIs بتاعتنا، يعني ال recommender system ده كان في الآخر ال objectives بتاعته إيه and does it meet ال objectives بتاعته ولا لأ. فإن order to test ده بنعمل hypothesis testing، بيبقى ال KPIs دي بتاعتنا فيها إن إحنا we try to test whether it actually performs the way we expected ولا لأ. We take a control group and sampling and you have to use some sampling techniques as well in order to test the data دي and then come up with conclusions whether you can proceed بالalgorithm as is or you need to refine it before full launch. Okay, فدي حاجة أي data scientist هيبقى بيعملها and this is one of the uses for it. والحاجة التانية هتبقوا more familiar بقى معاها مثلا زي الفيسبوك ads that we see every day. Actually هم عاملين built in مثلا algorithm for what they call A/B testing ل different ads. فأنت مثلا لو أنت عندك شركة وعامل business على فيسبوك وعندك ad على البيج بتاعتك، بيديلك chance ان انت تتست مثلا نفس الكامبين بس مثلا ب 2 different backgrounds، واحد مثلا ابيض وواحد مثلا ازرق. اوكي، وتشوف الفلو والفيدباك بتاع اليوزرز عندك والكليكس and so on ده versus ده in a matter of time. هم عاملين الالجوريثم basically بيعمل ال A/B testing ده in the back end and it tells you which campaign to use. بعد فترة معينة هو بيحددها depends على الحاجات اللي انت محتاج تتست and that's it. ف actually if we want to call this هو عملوا a data product out of hypothesis testing. although it's something that we probably yawned over واحنا بنذاكرها زمان، بس هي حاجة اتعملت منها data product that is huge, probably one of the most يعني used products مثلا for Facebook if we can say. This is statistics basically, the statistics toolbox and it's one of the key ones. وآخر حاجة بقى الثالثة will most probably talked about for data science، وprobably أصلا الناس بتتكلم عن machine learning والartificial intelligence والdata science as إن هما one term. هما subset من data science، بس data science is not just machine learning and AI زي ما شفنا. It's also analytics, it's also statistics and so on. فإيه هو بقى machine learning والartificial intelligence؟ يعني simply باختصار شديد machine learning is a thing labeling recipe. يعني ايه؟ يعني هي حاجة بتخلينا ان احنا نعمل نوري الكمبيوتر some examples not instructions. احنا متعودين دايما ان احنا في البروجرامينج وكده بندي instructions للكمبيوتر، بنقول له بلانجوج معينة if then، يعني if then rules، اعمل كذا بعد كده كذا بعد كده كذا and so on. الماشين ليرنينج الانوفيشن اللي فيه انه انت مش محتاج تعمل كده، انت محتاج توري للكمبيوتر examples، قول له اتفرج على الحاجات دي واكوردنجلي وبتدي له الليبلز بتاعتها. ففور انستنس بتوري له صور مثلا كاتس، وبتوري له صور دوجز، وبتقول له ان الصور دي صور كاتس والصور دي صور دوجز and that's it. and then next time بتوري له صورة جديدة وهو محتاج يتعرف عليها، يعرف this is a cat or a dog for instance. اوكي، بكل سهولة هو machine learning algorithm is essentially a thing labeling recipe that you do not need to give instructions for, you just need to give examples. اوكي، ففي الاكزامبل بتاعت الكات دي احنا اي حد مثلا عنده بيبي صغير وبيشوفه هو بيعلمه ازاي مثلا ازاي يعرف ان دي this is a cat. This is basically how we teach a child, a baby, انه this بنديله صورة نوريها له هو بيتعرف عليها and it's actually inspired من the way how our brain works is basically we do the same thing. With the power of this انه قبل الماشين learning و artificial intelligence we could not actually have a way to do this. انه it's a completely new paradigm and a new way to communicate with your computer. اوكي، انه قبل كده traditional programming was all about انه انت عندك مشكلة يبقى انت محتاج تعمل a set of instructions 1 2 3 4 5 عشان الكمبيوتر يعرف يفهم ان هو هيعمل الستبس دي عشان يطلع لك اللي هو محتاج يعمله. اوكي، الماشين ليرنينج تكنيك is about the recipe. اوكي، انه دلوقتي انت عايز تقول له لو سمحت بص على الصورة دي واعرف انها cat. This is not something that you can explain with instructions. And here becomes the beauty of machine learning. انه basically you tell the computer look at these examples, figure out what makes a cat من البيكسلز بتاعت الصورة اللي انت هتبص عليها، learn the patterns واعرف لوحدك ايه correctly which pictures are the cat pictures and which ones are the dog pictures. And in this it's completely a new future basically. وعشان كده يعني this is why machine learning and AI is taking a big of a hype. عشان انت خلاص no more you need to express everything. I like the term بتاع انه AI and ML are automating the inexpressible. فدايما بقى لما تبقى عايز تعرف انت هتطلع التول بوكس دي امتى، التول دي من التول بوكس دي امتى، انه لما ابقى عارف ان انا عايز اعلم الكمبيوتر بتاعي حاجه بس انا ما عنديش instructions ليها، ما عنديش حاجة معينة أقول له لو سمحت دور على الباترن المعين ده في الداتا، لو لقيته يبقى هو this is exactly what you want. هقول لكم مثلا example عن ده. حاجة من الحاجات اللي دلوقتي مثلا بقت very very يعني one of the key things that فيها fraud detection for instance. okay, قبل كده احنا كان عندنا fraud detection is done in a very manual manner وبيبقى شغال كويس وتمام وكل حاجة، بس things with automation برضو with the techniques with cyber security وكل الكلام ده with the online payment with يعني حاجات كتير جدا، بقى ال fraud detection في ال payment especially بقى it's much harder to detect. الماشين learning I think it completely يعني took this area to another level by actually detecting patterns that you could have not possibly found yourself manually كده عشان تعرف تديها للكمبيوتر عشان يطلعها لك، بس هو بيلاقيها لوحده وبيعرف يطلع الباترنز دي and accordingly identifies it correctly as fraud and so on. فدي مثلا حاجة من الحاجات very commonly used كماشين learning algorithm يعني. بس and hence it represents definitely a fundamental leap في ال progress بتاع ال technology and automation and so on. This is to wrap up the 3 categories. في بقى term تاني أنا حبيت إن أنا من غير without confusing you further بس I really like it what we call decision intelligence. Okay, decision intelligence basically combines كل الحاجات دي combines data science with social and managerial sciences. فباسically بناخد التول بوكس بتاعتنا الثلاثه اللي احنا استخدمناهم دول وبنزود عليهم some social and managerial sciences عشان basically نعرف نعمل decisions. فيعني انا طول الوقت بقول من اول presentation ان احنا we need to make value out of the data, we need to use it for decision making, we need to do so and so. انت لو عندك احسن داتا في العالم وفيها value huge بس انت ما عندكش قوي فكره how to set the right hypothesis for instance, how to ask the right questions عشان تطلع اصلا باجابات that are valuable من الداتا, او عندك مثلا information كافيه او exposure كافي للباك جراوند او الكونتكست بتاع البروبلم انت شغال عليها. if you're مثلا working on a problem for pricing مثلا products in banking for instance, او حاجه تانية مثلا related ل supply chain مثلا في حاجه كبيره زي e-commerce platforms Amazon and so on. In order to be able to make the right decisions you need to use decision intelligence. يعني you need to couple ال data science toolbox اللي احنا اتعلمناها دي الثلاثه اللي احنا اتعلمناهم مش هيبقوا كفايه, لازم كمان يبقى جنبهم social and managerial sciences, or at least depending on your business domain ان انت تبقى قاري شويه في الحاجات دي وتبقى عارف ان انت تفكر في hypotheses و observations and so on beyond الداتا يعني. okay, this is basically all about يعني decision intelligence and how to use it and so on, making the use of the blend of this data science with social and managerial sciences in order to meet different business objectives. And it's a new term, however it's not new, but it's basically a combination of data science, وإنه باختصار يعني بيقول لك إنه data science alone is not enough. You also need to couple it with يعني some expertise in social knowledge and so on. Okay. طيب احنا كده اتكلمنا عن الداتا ساينس في المطلق و some terms and now we know ايه التول بوكس بتاعت الداتا ساينس وامتى استخدم ايه and so on. I'll go ahead to give you a very brief of some applications in banking. You will probably find some of them when you search حتى online, but I'll try to give you كده a bit of them based على experience في commercial banking so far. But first and foremost, there is a data science approach. There's not a formal one. يعني كل حد بيشتغل بطريقته, بس في الآخر I'd like to share معاكم كده very quickly about that. إنه basically data scientists they apply design thinking. Design thinking إنه basically زي أي designer بيعمل أي piece of art. It's also a bit artistic إنه you try to design your algorithm or your product end to end. By basically exploring the data, finding hidden patterns, making sense of these patterns to extract knowledge, and then eventually building recommendations. من الأول خالص بتحاول أنت تبقى human centric, what we call human centric, إنه تفكر دايما في اليوزر اللي أنت بتعمله الداتا دي, سواء اليوزر ده هو الأند كاستمر خالص أو it's a business team for instance. السايكل اللي احنا بنعدي بيها انه number one we make observations outside the data. يعني بشوف مثلا pattern معين بيحصل او حاجه within the business that I want to answer, او بتجيلي من عند البيزنس team ان هم عايزين يعني some sort of observation that they want to share with us, and then we start asking questions more about that برضو outside the data عشان نحاول make sense of البروبلم دي اكتر ونتاكد ان احنا فاهمينها مظبوط. And then accordingly we try to formulate hypothesis. So for instance انه مثلا حد من البيزنس تيم جه عنده observation انه مثلا we're seeing انه في decline في السيلز, ف we start asking interesting questions like طب sales in general ولا في products معينة, طيب ده في وقت قد ايه, طب هل كان ده مثلا حاجة seasonal ولا this is a first time, طب الديكلاين عامل يعني كبير versus what we're used to، ولا ده normal decline بيحصل and so on. And then we start to formulate a hypothesis. فبعد الأسئلة دي probably أنت من غير الداتا خالص ممكن يبقى عندك hypothesis إنه مثلا الديكلاين ده due to مثلا a change in feature عملناها الفترة اللي فاتت ممكن ما تكونش عجبت الكاستمرز. اوكي، ف we try to test الحاجة دي من الداتا. So we try to gather and process the data. So we try to gather الداتا في الوقت اللي احنا عايزين نبص عليه versus وقت مثلا قبل كده، عشان نحاول نقارن البيريدز دي ببعض ونحاول نفهم if that's the case ولا لأ. And then we try to develop a model or generate insights and recommendations based on the data that we've gathered. And always, and this is a very important thing, إنه data science حاجة من الحاجات الiterative. يعني unfortunately and it's very hard بقى in terms of project management honestly. إنه من أكتر الحاجات اللي بتبقى صعبة when you're managing a data science project is to set a perfect timeline ليها يعني. لأنه دايما بتوصل لأن أنت خلاص طلعت موديل وكل حاجة بس you have to refine and expand and modify and so on. You never reach يعني a final a version of it من أول مرة. And then finally, when you're happy with what you have, you start telling the story. You start sharing the findings with your team, where your business team or the decision makers. Because برضو at the end of the day, it's important to say إنه data scientists are not decision makers. Data scientists are normally في أي organizations, they're the ones who support decision making. They do not take the decision on their own. So their job becomes a bit hard في حتة إنه لازم يشرحوا ده بطريقة سهلة وبسيطة للناس التانية من غير ما يبقوا داخلين في very technical terms يعني. طيب أنواع الداتا ساينس مودلز في البانكينج إيه؟ أو actually ده عامة in general including banking يعني. There are key types of data science models. As per Gartner هما across the value والcomplexity بيزيدوا over المنظر ده. فلو ابتدينا بأول حاجة في الكورنر Descriptive Analytics, it's the least complex and مش عايزة أقول least value بس يعني it's one of the basic things, basic exercises, and it answers the question of what happened. فdescriptive models are like زي ما كنا بنقول حاجات مثلا فيها A/B testing, حاجات فيها campaign assessment, حاجات behavioral segmentations, stuff like that. We'll go to this in a bit. Second thing is diagnostic models. It answers why something has happened. فأنت مثلا ممكن تعمل موديل إن هو مش بس يطلع recommendation، هو يطلع recommendation لو في مشكلة معينة حصلت مثلا في manufacturing area مثلا، وعايز تعرف هو ايه المشكلة اللي بتحصل امتى، يعني to diagnose the problem for instance. hence becomes diagnostic models في use cases دي بتبقى مهمة جدا. تالت حاجة predictive models. هم أكتر حاجة probably مشهورة يعني. أصلا الداتا ساينس ساعات بيبقى مفهوم إن هو it's just for prediction but it's not. بس يعني predicting بقى everything from predicting sales, predicting churn إن customers يمشوا أو يسيبوا السيرفيس، أو predicting even predicting employee churn يعني this is something that's also common. Stuff like that يعني predicting anything basically بيبقى تحت الأمبريلا دي. predicting fraud as well يعني this is or predicting credit card default. فكل الحاجات دي بتبقى تحت الأمبريلا دي. واخر حاجه prescriptive analytics، ودي اعلى بقى حته و actually it's the least one used for some reason بس probably عشان برضو كمان مش ناس كتير بتبقى familiar بيها، بس هي mostly بتبقى satisfied بالconcepts برضو simulation اكتر من machine learning وكده. and it basically helps you to decide which action to take. if you're familiar with the simulation concepts بكل أنواعها بقى بس يعني prescriptive models بتنزل تحت الحتة دي to tell you a quick glimpse كده إن أنت مثلا ممكن تستخدم تعمل موديل بيسيميوليت الباترنز مثلا اللي جوه الفروع بالظبط exactly السيرفيس ريتس والانفلو ريتس بتاعت الكاستمرز والسيرفيس ريتس وكل حاجه عشان تحاول تقلل الويتنج تايمز جوه الفروع. Okay, this is something that we've actually worked on and it was very very interesting. We've done a real mimic of the branch itself. وكنا end in mind ان احنا نحاول ندي tool لل branches management عندنا ان هم يعرفوا يقرروا ايه ال decisions to take عشان يقللوا ال waiting times. بس given انه دايما المشكلة مش هي واحدة في كل الفروع، ممكن يبقى فرع عنده مشكلة، فرع عنده مشكلة تانية and so on. we try to do this by a simulator that allows them ان هم they test مثلا ان انا لو زودت تالر في الفرع ده هل الويتنج تايم هيفرق؟ طب لو مثلا زودت اي تي ام بره هياخد شويه من الفلو بتاع الزحمه اللي جوه، طب لو عملت كذا، طب لو عملت كذا. فحولنا كل الحاجات دي ل one simulator tool. Actually it was one of the things that got CIB award, a global award from Global Finance يعني for this model. It is honestly one of sorry okay you can hear me right? Okay, so it's one of the most complex yet يعني one of the highest value honestly. طيب I'll go very briefly كده على ال data science applications في ال commercial banking I'll focus على descriptive وال predictive mainly. So if we start with this descriptive في campaigns assessment, channels optimization, behavioral segmentation. These are also examples بس يعني أكيد في حاجات كتيرة أكتر من كده. ومن ناحية ال predictive في fraud detection, churn prediction and recommender systems. I've chosen some of the most interesting ones يعني to share with you. I'll go عليهم brief very quickly just for the sake of time. وبرضو if you need to ask me more we will have some time for questions في الآخر يعني. Let's start with descriptive analytics. Campaigns assessment is basically about the part اللي احنا اتكلمنا فيه في statistics section انه in order to assess the profitability or effectiveness of a launched campaign we try ان احنا نطلع control group ونعمل hypothesis testing للكامبين دي versus الناس اللي ما خدوش كامبين خالص اللي هم what we call control group. And we make sure ان ال control group دي ما خدوش اي نوع من انواع الكامبينز مش بس الكامبين اللي under testing and so on. وبيبقى فيها it involves يعني a lot of sampling techniques and so on. بس دي حاجة من الحاجات it's a key actually application for statistical inference يعني. A second one is channels optimization. تحتيها بقى هنحط كذا حاجة يعني one of them is process optimization ل different channels سواء branches, ATMs and so on. ده ممكن تبتدي فيه من أول إن أنت تعمل شوية data mining على الداتا بتاعت البرانشز وال ATMs فتحاول تشوف مثلا لو في فروع فيها مشكلة، في فروع فيها waiting time عالي، في فروع فيها inefficiencies من ناحية التالرز، أو مثلا ال ATMs في ATMs فيها queues عالية، فيها زحمة زيادة عن اللزوم، طيب فيها cash problem and so on. من أول هنا لحد ما إن أنت يبقى عندك a full-fledged model بيطلع recommendations on a regular basis for سواء recommendation to مثلا improve the waiting time لكل فرع، حاجة زي اللي احنا قلناها بتاعت الفروع and so on. بس قبل دي احنا مثلا كنا بنعمل حاجات recommendations لكل فرع من غير simulation ولا حاجة، recommendation for every branch to improve the waiting time بتاعه based على resources available and performance جوه الفرع والteller efficiency arrival rate جوه الفرع and so on. فيها شوية queuing exercise يعني. And accordingly we recommend whether to مثلا increase the working hours في الفرع ده أو نزود tellers أو نزود ATMs or يعني شوية different recommendations. Something else is having an optimization model for the location of الفروع أو ال ATMs. to optimize locations not just based على cost wise بس كمان based على being customer centric and actually fulfilling the two angles of value يعني من ناحية الكاستمر ومن ناحية البنك و satisfying the growth in demand and so on. فهي it's a big optimization problem يعني بس we've actually worked on both of them on the branches and the ATMs والمودلز دي بتطلع في الآخر ال best locations for new ATMs or new branches and even بقى given with the digitalization and offloading and so on ساعات بتطلع ايه الفروع اللي محتاجين ممكن نقفلها in the future to cut costs and utilize the digital offloading capabilities يعني. آخر حاجة بقى دي more برضه في تحت ال optimization it's based on a competitive intelligence methodologies إن إحنا بنحاول نديدكت some information من ال competitors data. Basically إحنا عندنا POSs و ATMs بتاعتنا you get عليها cards و behavior لكل الكروت مش بس الكروت بتاعت البنك بتاعك. ف you are able to see ال competitors behavior as well على ال POSs بتاعتنا وعلى ال ATMs بتاعتنا و try to identify potential opportunities منها in order to optimize the performance يعني. آخر حاجة بقى في Descriptive Analytics is behavioral segmentation. It's one of the key things. إحنا personally as a team we've worked على ال exercises دي كتير قوي. يعني since we joined the bank we started off with the behavioral segmentation للبنك in entirety يعني segmenting your customers based on their behavior across all products and services and then accordingly we started to segment مثلا ال credit card customers based on their purchase behavior to segment the saving account customers based on their saving behavior and so on كل حاجة based على ال behavior بتاعها and they were one of the most valuable exercises honestly and they revamped مش بس in terms of value they also revamped الطريقة اللي احنا بنشتغل بيها. Okay. Predictive analytics بقى يعني كده we're done with the descriptive analytics. In terms of predictive analytics we have customer churn. Basically it handles فكرة إنه لو customer هيمشي أو هيجو inactive من ال services بتاعتنا we want to be able to predict الحاجة دي beforehand in order to build proper retention activities and so on. ده برضه ممكن يتعمل by customer across كل services بتاعتنا أو by product specific لcards بس أو loans بس أو savings بس and so on. With this is a typical برضه also machine learning exercise لأنه أنت usually كتير قوي أنت مش بتبقى عارف أصلا هو إيه اللي بيحصل قبل ما الكاستمر يتشيرن فأنت ما عندكش instructions تقول للموديل لما الكاستمر يعمل كذا يبقى هو هيمشي. Sometimes you have some hypotheses أو يعني some assumptions ممكن تتست it بس mostly ده بيبقى أكتر machine learning exercise يعني. تاني حاجة recommender systems دي أكتر حاجة مشهورة فيها يعني فكرة الأمازون recommendation systems or مثلا اليوتيوب video recommendations and so on. وإحنا برضو حاولنا نعمل ده within banking إنه you have a recommender system for the next best product for the customer based على ال usage بتاعته what products they have what products they're actively using and so on and it's been a great huge success as well and it's completely revamped الطريقة اللي احنا بنعمل بيها السيلز بتاعتنا سواء on telesales or branches and so on. وبرضه this is again a heavy machine learning exercise coupled by يعني some strong advanced analytics in the back end. آخر حاجة fraud detection. It's basically concerned with identifying a fraudulent behavior across different accounts or cards and so on. وكمان في حاجة تانية احنا عملناها لل customers اللي هم they behave like a business. basically, which is يعني something that within the CBE is frowned upon. فمثلا one of the algorithms that we've built is an algorithm that identifies الناس اللي بيستخدموا accounts بتاعتهم for business while إن هم عندهم ده personal account عادي، لأنه ده بيبقى فيه شوية threat of tax evasion و fraud and so on. So these are some of the things that we've worked on. I'm sure you might have some questions to or would like to go more in depth. Feel free to ask me more questions في الآخر if you like. Finally بقى يعني آخر حاجة كده to wrap up in a few minutes. Data science versus actuarial science, and how can we are they really different actually? Do we need to call it a shift ولا هما يعني فيهم overlap كبير and so on. يعني one of the things that I'm proud of إنه يعني إنه I myself have an actuarial background و studied actuarial science سواء في البachelor بتاعتي أو في الماسترز, and I believe it's one of the things that really made me a good data scientist, honestly. Having the statistics background has really helped me a lot يعني فزي ما احنا شفنا, given إنه data science is heavily reliant على statistics, so it helps you even learn a lot on the job in a very يعني easy way, given that you have the hard part. So if we want to briefly كده نقول ايه الفرق ما بين ال two disciplines. data science basically احنا زي ما قلنا هو عبارة عن statistics, data mining, machine learning. الفكرة فيه ان هو السكوب بتاعه كان بي applied على اي industry, مش dependent على مثلا financial industry بس and so on. It depends ان انت بس تستخدم التولز دي في اي industry اللي انت محتاجها. Actuarial science is more formal, وطبعا it's a discipline that's been there for a century maybe or more, and it combines computer science, economics, finance, mathematics, statistics, probability, حاجات كتير. بس it's more formalized. discipline والstudies معروفة, والapplications mainly في financial services, banking, insurance, مش في كل الindustries يعني. فده الفرق مبدئيا في السكوب. In terms of data هما الاثنين they're data savvy, which is good. يعني أي actuary هيبقى very familiar with the data. الفرق إنه data science بيبقى السكوب بتاعه شوية ممكن يبقى applied على حاجات unstructured data, يعني زي مثلا text mining, زي voice data, زي image recognition, الكلام ده. Actuarial science mainly focuses على structured data, but definitely given the innovation في الفيلد برضو it's becoming more popular إنه it applies كمان unstructured data يعني. In terms of the approach بقى, هو data science is mainly focusing on زي قلنا making data useful, getting the analysis right. كل حد فينا لو كلنا دلوقتي كل الناس اللي في الروم أخدوا data set واشتغلوا عليها, كل حد هيطلع حاجة. ممكن هيبقوا الريزلتس قريبة بس الريسيبي هتبقى مختلفة تماما. most probably ممكن يبقوا قريبين بس هيبقى فيها some زي كأنك when you're cooking. So I'm sure إن كل حد لو طبخ نفس الطبخة هنطلع في الآخر نفس البرودكت, بس الطعم, الملح, السكر, whatever. فهي this is basically the variation في data science. Actuarial science is more standardized. يعني there are certain steps, there is a formalization of everything. approach مش زي data science شوية, more formal أو standardized. الحاجة الرابعة mastering data science لحد دلوقتي is more about طبعا في دلوقتي masters programs وفي certificates and so on, but it's not mandatory. It just helps you being faster, being more knowledgeable and so on. While actuarial science, to be called an actuary, you need to qualify the certain exams and so on. Hence it definitely في entry barrier أكبر بكتير يعني, and hence برضو دلوقتي this is why data science has become يعني a huge field. إنه لو if you have the time and energy and passion to learn then you'll probably be a data scientist soon يعني. والحاجة الأخيرة هي التولز. إنه basically الداتا ساينس بيفوكس على برضه يعني لسه programming savvy شوية، وبيعتمد اعتماد كبير على ال programming skills و languages وال algorithms and so on. while actuarial science rely mainly على pre-developed software وكده يعني you do not need to develop your own programming. You do not need to program your equations or your models and so on. You just need to know how to use them, set the parameters and so on. While data science is a bit different في الحتة دي. ده الفرق ما بين ال data science و actuarial science by the book. طيب where do they meet بقى؟ هما they have a lot in common زي ما قلنا. They're very increasingly transferable يعني كskills. إنه الاتنين they use the same techniques when it comes to analyzing data. فكرة ال probability وال forecasting وال statistics and so on. They both rely على فكرة إن أنت you need to visualize your data, pick up the patterns, recognize them, and definitely use statistics when you're making conclusions beyond your data. فالاتنين they really focus على الحاجات دي. من أكتر ال 3 areas اللي هم they align فيها data و software development and methodology. So basically دي من أكتر الحاجات اللي they have a common area فيها يعني. بس بالنسبة لي هو أكتر حاجة common هي كلمة الداتا وال statistics يعني data and making use of statistics to actually get value out of the data. And the more data you have, the better analysis you get سواء في data science أو في actuarial science. بسرعة كده جدا ال data science skill set based على اللي احنا قلناه ده كله النهاردة mainly بتتلخص في 4 key areas: math and statistics, programming, domain knowledge and soft skills depending على الاريا بتاعتك، و communication and visualization زي storytelling, visualization tools زي Tableau and so on, programming زي R, Python, database management برضو it's good to know your SQL and so on. Math and statistics بقى statistics, probability, regression and so on. فدي key things that a data scientist must have. و definitely soft skills, not to undermine it at all يعني, but it's very very important. Being able to have critical thinking, problem solving skills and so on. Communication is key. طيب ايه بقى الفرق ما بين ده وال what actuaries do know دلوقتي and what do they need to make the shift؟ زي ما قلنا هم اصلا مش بعيد عن بعض، وبصراحه انا بالنسبه لي I do not like to call it a shift قوي لان هو it's not very far. It's more of, for me, it's augmenting or adding new tools to the already available toolbox actuaries have. فبالنسبة لي this is why I call it data science for actuaries. It's just an additional tool that they have. مثلا typical actuarial skills would lie في depending on the area of expertise زي life insurance, general insurance, health and care, pensions, finance and investment, data analysis, investment areas and so on. طيب ايه new skills بقى؟ Basically programming definitely for those actuaries who do not program, which are the majority يعني. So definitely programming skills would be important من أول SQL querying عشان to extract the data set بتاعتك و to play along with بيها وكده and so on. R and Python for being a very quick analytics professional زي ما قلنا في الأول. Having التورش بتاعتك في الدارك room, so you need to R Python عشان تبقى as quick as possible. learning about the data mining process, CRISP DM والكلام ده، إنه السايكل بتاعت الداتا mining والanalytics and so on. Learning the different machine learning algorithms. You do not have to know every single thing or how it works لحد الcore, بس learning إنه مثلا في حاجة اسمها classification algorithms، في حاجة اسمها supervised learning، في حاجة اسمها unsupervised learning، امتى استخدم ده وامتى ما استخدمش ده and so on. It's a bit more in depth. It's not a lot to take actually. يعني you can easily learn ده من sources online. بس it's important to know them يعني. و finally data visualization زي Tableau and so on. So having the tools إن أنت تقدر visualize بيها، أو حتى through R أو Python إن أنت تعمل good visuals بالداتا بتاعتك. واخيرا بقى operations research models، هي ده اصلا علم لوحده وحاجه كبيره جدا بره حتى كل الحاجات دي. بس احنا بصراحه هي حاجه مهمه جدا في تحت الداتا ساينس فيلد، انه تبقى عارف تعمل mathematical optimization models، تبقى عارف تعمل discrete simulation models مثلا or agent based modeling or genetic algorithms. يعني هي it's a bit of a different scope، بس بيبقى ليها heavy applications a lot of industries يعني. بس it's nice to have at this point. يعني if you start with اللي فوق الأول I think you would be good to go. برضو feel free to ask more about the skills if you like. وبس كده يعني we're done for today. I hope إنه this was useful for you and we cleared out some terms. We know more about data science than we started. وبس thanks a lot for your time.